You've been seeing it, haven't you? Not with your eyes, not with something obvious or explainable, but with something deeper, a quiet awareness, a subtle knowing, that sense that everything around you is shifting, slowly at first, almost unnoticeably, and then, suddenly, all at once, like the universe has been rearranging pieces behind a curtain this whole time, quietly moving things into place while you were busy wondering why nothing seemed to work. And now, any moment now, that curtain is about to lift. You're not imagining it, and you're not being overly optimistic. What you're sensing is real. In fact, this feeling often appears right before something significant changes. It's the final signal, the moment right before everything you've been working toward, everything you've been praying for, everything you've been slowly aligning yourself with, finally locks into place. This is the reveal, and it's closer than you think. But before we go further, I want you to do something important. Pause for a second and ask yourself this question honestly. Have you felt different lately? If the answer is yes, then stay with me, because what you're about to hear might explain exactly why. Because I know you've been here before, standing right at the edge of what felt like a breakthrough, feeling that familiar electricity in the air, that strange sense that something big was about to happen, only to watch another door close, another opportunity dissolve, another moment that felt so certain slip through your fingers. And every time that happened, something inside you shifted. You started questioning yourself. You wondered if you were reading the signs wrong, if maybe you were just desperate to see patterns where none actually existed. Maybe the universe wasn't communicating with you at all. Maybe you were just talking to yourself in an empty room. Maybe all those signs were just coincidences. But let me ask you something. What if they weren't false starts? What if every single one of those moments, every delay, every closed door, every painful pause was actually necessary? What if each one was shaping you, preparing you, refining you for something that required a version of you that didn't exist yet? Because here's the truth most people never realize. The version of you who started this journey could not have carried what you're about to receive. That earlier version of you wanted everything faster, easier, without the struggle, without the long seasons of uncertainty. But if it had happened back then, you might have taken the blessing and unknowingly destroyed it through unhealed patterns, through old fears, through wounds that hadn't yet been understood, through habits that would have sabotaged the very thing you were asking for. But something changed. The waiting changed you. The delays reshaped you. The silence strengthened you. Without realizing it, you were being rebuilt, piece by piece, moment by moment, into someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who could actually hold what's coming without losing it. And that's where the reveal begins. Right before everything aligns, there's always a reveal, not of the blessing itself, but of you, of who you've become in the process of not having it yet, of the strength you didn't know you were building, of the patience you didn't realize you were learning, of the wisdom that quietly formed while you thought nothing was happening. One day, you'll look in the mirror, and you'll barely recognize the person staring back. Not because anything about your appearance has changed, but because internally, everything has reorganized itself. Your mindset, your priorities, your boundaries, your energy. The old version of you will feel like someone you once knew deeply, but no longer relate to. That realization, that moment of recognition, that's the reveal. The moment you understand that none of the weight you carried was wasted. Every delay was actually acceleration. Every setback was strengthening you. Every waiting season was expanding your capacity to receive something bigger than what you originally imagined. And the strange thing about this reveal is that it rarely happens in dramatic moments. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It doesn't come with announcements. Instead, it happens quietly. You might be making coffee, driving to work, folding laundry, walking somewhere familiar, and suddenly, you just know, not with your mind. Your mind is still calculating, planning, questioning, but your soul knows. Your soul recognizes the shift. You realize something fundamental has changed. You realize you're standing at the threshold of everything transforming. And here's something fascinating about alignment that most people misunderstand. The universe doesn't give warnings before alignment happens. It gives confirmations, small ones, subtle ones, moments that seem insignificant on their own, but powerful when they begin to stack together. You start seeing repeating numbers. You hear the same message from different people. Conversations begin echoing the same themes. Dreams carry symbols you can't ignore. Opportunities appear that feel strangely familiar. And decisions that once confused you suddenly feel clear. That's not coincidence. That's calibration. It's the universe fine-tuning your frequency, preparing you for the moment when everything connects, so that when the doors open, you won't hesitate, so that when the opportunity arrives, you won't doubt yourself, so that when the life you've been building in the invisible finally becomes visible, you'll step into it fully, without shrinking, without self-sabotage, without returning to who you used to be. And right now, you're in that calibration period. These are the final adjustments, the last refinements, the quiet moments right before everything clicks together with such precision that when you look back later, you'll understand exactly why it had to take this long. But here's the part that surprises most people. Alignment doesn't feel like arrival. It feels like becoming. It whispers. It doesn't shout. You notice you're no longer triggered by things that once completely unraveled you. Situations that used to drain you suddenly have no power. You start making healthier choices without forcing yourself. Boundaries form naturally around what you will and won't tolerate. You're drawn toward different conversations, different environments, different futures. And one day, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe even while you're listening to these words right now, you'll realize something powerful. You're not the same person who started this journey. The alignment didn't happen to you. It happened through you. Through every moment you stayed when leaving would have been easier. Through every day you chose faith over visible evidence. Through every step you kept taking, even when nothing seemed to change. That's the reveal. Not that the universe suddenly decided you're worthy, but that you became someone capable of receiving what has been waiting for you all along. And now, everything begins moving, not slowly, not gradually, suddenly, completely. The relationship appears when you finally stop searching for it, not when you're constantly checking your phone, not when you're forcing connections, not when you're trying to convince someone to see your worth, but when you've reached a point where your peace matters more than the chase, when you've grown comfortable in your own presence, when you've stopped trying to fill a space that only the right person was meant to occupy. That's when something unexpected happens. Someone enters your life who doesn't feel like confusion, doesn't feel like effort, doesn't feel like uncertainty. It feels like recognition, like two paths that were always meant to meet, finally crossing at the exact moment they were supposed to. And the opportunity? It arrives when you stop chasing it with desperation. Because chasing often comes from fear. Fear that if you stop running, you'll miss your chance. But the truth is something most people discover too late. What is truly meant for you does not require endless chasing. It requires alignment, and alignment changes everything. Suddenly, the door you were pushing so hard to open opens from the other side. The call comes when you least expect it. The opportunity appears in a place you weren't even looking, and you realize something profound in that moment. The thing you were chasing wasn't running away from you. It was waiting for the version of you who was ready to receive it. Then clarity arrives. And when it does, it doesn't come slowly. It doesn't trickle in piece by piece. It cuts through confusion instantly, like a light being switched on in a room that had been dark for years. Things that once seemed complicated suddenly make sense. You see the lessons hidden inside your pain. You understand why certain people had to leave. You recognize why certain doors had to close. Because if they hadn't, you might never have been redirected toward where you are now. And healing? Healing is perhaps the most surprising part of all. Because for so long, you believed healing meant effort, working harder, trying to fix every broken part of yourself, searching endlessly for answers. But real healing doesn't always happen through force. Often, it happens through surrender, through finally letting go of the need to control every outcome, through accepting that some chapters had to end the way they did, through trusting that not everything lost was meant to stay. And when that surrender happens, something inside you softens, the resistance fades, the weight you've been carrying begins to lift, and the healing you've been searching for quietly begins to unfold. Then the shift begins. And when it begins, it can move faster than you ever imagined. So fast it almost makes you dizzy. For years, it may have felt like nothing was happening, like you were stuck, like time itself had slowed down. But alignment works in an interesting way. It builds quietly behind the scenes, and when the moment is right, everything moves at once. Doors open, conversations happen, connections form, paths reveal themselves, and suddenly life begins unfolding with a momentum that feels almost surreal. That's when the realization finally lands. That's when you understand why it took this long, why the waiting mattered, why the silence was necessary, why the process could not be rushed. Because the person you were years ago could not have carried what you're about to receive now. That version of you was still learning, still healing, still discovering your strength. But this version of you, this version has walked through the storms. This version has survived the confusion. This version has grown through the waiting. And what's coming requires exactly this version of you. Not the old one, not the one who doubted everything, not the one who feared every step forward. This one, the one listening right now, the one who has learned patience, the one who has learned resilience, the one who has learned that even when nothing seems to be happening, something powerful is always unfolding beneath the surface. So if something inside you recognizes this message, if something inside your chest feels strangely calm while reading these words, if a quiet voice inside you keeps whispering, "This feels true," then I want you to do something powerful, something simple, but meaningful. Write this in the comments. The reveal is here. Everything is aligning for me now. Write it not as hope, not as wishful thinking, not even as manifestation, but as recognition, as acknowledgement of the journey you've already walked, as confirmation that something has already begun moving in your life. Because the truth is, messages like this don't appear randomly. You didn't arrive here by accident, and what comes next in your life won't happen by accident either. You're entering a different season now, a season where things begin responding to the energy you've become, because alignment has a powerful quality. It attracts exactly what it needs, exactly when it needs it, the right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. Everything begins moving with a kind of natural flow that once felt impossible. So this moment right now, this realization, this quiet understanding forming inside you is your confirmation, your moment of awareness, your recognition that the waiting season is slowly coming to an end and something new is beginning. The receiving season, the season where the seeds you planted in silence finally begin to grow in the light, where the things you once only imagined start appearing in your reality. Right before everything aligns, something like this appears. A reminder, a signal, a moment of recognition, and now you're seeing it.